And we are live. So, guys, the man, the myth, Shinigami, I've been wanting to interview him for a while, and then he just came over and we said, let's do this interview. So, for those of you who are watching who might see this later, this is recorded live. So, our hope is we can start talking, we can start riffing, and then as people join in, you guys can give us your questions. So, I will actually write in the chat now, leave your questions here. Boom. Cool. So we might not get to your questions immediately because one, there's a delay, and two, we're also talking. But if anyone leaves your questions, we will hopefully get to them as long as they're good questions, appropriate questions. Try to follow the YouTube rules, etc.
Yeah.
Dude. So Shinigami, aka Danny, and I just found out Daniel.
The legal name right there. Yep.
Daniel. So you were born Daniel. You grew up in the California area.
Yep.
And tell me about your life. Your mom shared a funny story that she thought you'd be a football player.
Huh. Never told me that. She told me a lot of things I could be or should have been, but I was never a football player.
Okay.
In fact, one that always irritated me was like, "Oh, you would have been a good Harry Potter." Okay, cool. Why didn't
Harry
you
Potter.
Why didn't you ever take me to an audition then? I would have done it. I mean, I was about the same age as Daniel Radcliffe when he did the first Harry Potter.
And your name was Daniel.
Yeah,
also.
exactly. So, I could have put on a British accent and been like, "I'm the boy who lived."
That's right.
But
size difference wise, Daniel Radcliffe's like this. You're like this. You would have actually been like a believable superhero, right?
Yeah, by the seventh movie, they would have had to dig a trench for me to still be like
That's right.
Scrawny. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one was a lawyer because we always argue. We don't get along very well. So always argue. You'd make a good lawyer. Yeah, maybe, but I don't want to do that because arguing is exhausting and there's no amount of money in the world that'll make me want to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So tell me about when you first stepped into martial arts dojos or gyms, etc. What age were you?
I was 19 the first time I stepped into a school, and it was the Ija Academy in Hollywood.
Ooh, okay.
And under Shifu Earl White. And I'd been living at my uncle's the end of culinary school. And so I had to walk past every day to get to the Red Line station so I could take the Gold Line to Pasadena from Union Station.
Mm-hmm.
And, on the way home, I'd stop and watch. And one day he weighed me in and, it was like, well, you want to try the class? I'm like, well, I'd love to try the class, but I'm not gonna be able to sign up because I'm moving in 2 weeks. Because I was moving back to Palmdale like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in and I take a couple trial classes, and he's like, well, you know what? You picked this stuff up pretty good. Why don't you come back and train until you have to move, like on the house? I was like, oh, wow, cool. So I went back and I was learning, Woon Hop Kuen-Do, Kung Fu. And, they had a capoeira class there, but I didn't do that. I mean, I was already too sore from doing Kung Fu. The first day after I did Kung Fu, I could barely even get out of bed. I'm like, I got to go to school, and that was when we were actually doing the restaurant rotation. So I was served, so I had to stay on a cooking line and cook like it was like a job all day. And I was like, so then I go back in there and I'm training and stuff, and he's like, yeah, wherever you go. So I went back to Lake LA or Lancaster and Palmdale, and I was looking for schools, and they were all out of my price range. And then I ended up moving back to Lake LA, and I found out about the karate school I ended up training at, which is ironically the same karate school my mom wanted to put me when I was 10.
Wow.
But because I'm stubborn, and at the time I was like, I want to learn ninjutsu so I can be a ninja like the Ninja Turtles and and Snake Eyes.
Wow.
And stuff. And mom's, usually pretty, cheap or save money kind of. So when she was like, it's only $20 a month, or I think it was $10 a month at the time.
Wow, that's good.
It was like the late 90s when I could have gone there. I was like 10. And I was like, no, and then you get what you pay for. I want to learn ninjutsu, not karate, So that was stupid of me. I'd be like,
we all bought into the ninja craze, man.
Yep.
There was just that. I mean, Ashita Kim made a career out of that. So what's interesting, I just didn't realize that Shinigami actually started out in Kung Fu. You started out in Kung Fu. We associate him with karate and Kenpo, but he actually started out for 2 weeks in Kung Fu.
2 weeks of Kung Fu. And then he was like, yeah, you train really well. So find some place to train at. So I finally did, and I started there, and that place closed in 2010, and then I picked up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I actually started taking an MMA class in conjunction with my karate training in Lancaster at the Kung Fu Sansu place. I was just going in there doing the MMA class. They had somebody else running and their conditioning class when I was like a blue belt in karate.
Wow.
And then they closed. and then right after that, my karate dojo closed, and then it finally reopened 3 years later. But in the meantime, I picked up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and all that, and started taking MMA a little more seriously. And then my karate school came back, and I went, got us into the park program. So we came back there, and then I kept doing jiu-jitsu and everything. And now I'm, black belt in karate, and second degree black belt in karate, actually, as of September, and a purple belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
And I've got like 16 MMA fights.
Wow. So when you first got in touch with me, so for those of you who don't know, Danny's been in touch with me for many years before he ever debuted on Streetbeefs. When you sent me those clips, were they from that phase when you were sort of doing MMA in conjunction with karate, or what phase were they from?
I think some of them were just straight up my karate phase. Just when I was doing point sparring. I think I sent you a couple of my first MMA matches too, that I did like sport tournaments. So yeah, that was like right after I started learning some MMA stuff. Because what got me into that was I didn't get to watch the old UFC stuff or anything, and then I didn't really get into it when I was a teenager because I thought it was like Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, like strictly that. Because every time I was at my uncle's house watching The Ultimate Fighter, it was always, oh yeah, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai and Jiu-Jitsu. And I was like, I don't know enough about that stuff. I'm not interested in that. I just want to, I was starting to lean more towards karate and still obsessed with Jiu-Jitsu at the time. So then one night I'm like a purple belt, and I come home and I'm channel surfing, and it's like Spike TV. I passed Spike TV and they're showing Ultimate UFC where they were. So I hear Shotokan Karate, and I flip back, and that's how I got discovered Lyoto Machida.
Wow.
It was the Lyoto Machida Sokuju fight. So I'm like, oh, you can do karate and do this? Because I'm sitting there going like, man, I want to get paid to compete,
Yeah.
So in karate tournaments, you don't win prize money at most of them unless you're a black belt. So and then that's actually kind of how I got into Streetbeefs, because I was trying to do those and get money since I was a black belt. But then right after I got my black belt, I did like 2 tournaments, and then COVID happened, and all the tournaments went away. So I had nowhere else to compete, and I was like, well, the amateurs aren't even doing anything. I might as well go do Streetbeefs and see, get my feet wet and see if I still want to try to make a career out of doing full contact, because that's a little bit of a different animal, and then the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get to that point, how many years of karate did it take you to get to black belt?
Well, I started in 2007, and I got my first degree black belt in 2019. So about 12 years, but that, again, we had a couple of, the years off of that. And then when I came back, my sensei we had 8 senseis originally. And the one that kind of ended up taking over when we came back, wanted to revise the system, and he revised it like 3 times before I got the test for my brown belt, and then revised it more before I tested for I was a brown belt for like 3 years.
Wow.
And I was a green belt for like 8.
Wow. And yeah, that is a little bit rarer in sort of the karate or Kenpo system, because usually the way you gain belts, it's pretty linear, right?
Yeah.
In those systems.
Yeah.
Like you hear about like 10-year blue belts in jiu-jitsu, but that's because Brazilian jiu-jitsu is its own little creature.
Yeah. I mean, it's totally the thing. It was like between the being closed for a few years, like I just got my green belt right before they closed. So yeah, I was a green belt forever. And then we came back, and I was still a green belt forever because he was revamping the system. And then he finally tested me for brown. And then I was a brown belt forever because he was revamping it again. And now we're revamping it again to add more jiu-jitsu and reorganize stuff. Because, I mean, that's the thing about American Kenpo, though. Like, he was intended for it to constantly evolve, because the reality of street fighting constantly evolves.
Yeah.
So there's techniques we've completely taken out of the curriculum because there's something in them that is valuable anymore. Like, there's better ways to do some of this stuff. We actually created a whole new technique for the very first technique called Flight to Freedom, instead of just doing delayed sword. For the first technique.
Okay. Now that's something that is potentially we can show on camera in the future. That's pretty cool. Wow. So tell me about that first Streetbeefs fight. Was everyone kind of skeptical of you? Did you see that in like everyone's faces, or did they kind of see, they're like, ooh, this guy's scary?
Nah, there were a couple of people that were like over here looking at me and like, man,
because he was wearing this costume, right?
He
had his gi on. So I'm sure there were people like, what is this? A Karate Kid,
Yeah, and I was 330 pounds at the time too. So I was fat boy. I'm still a little chubby, but I was huge. I blew up.
Wow.
So, everyone's like, oh, look at the fat McDojo guy, and then Details over here in Venom shorts with the matching Venom gloves and looking like he's sponsored by Venom out here talking about, Muay Thai and wrestling and all this. And, if you don't know me, you're about to. Everyone's over here heckling me that first fight in the background. I didn't hear it because I was focused on the fight.
Yeah.
But then after that, and that's funny too, because that day I learned how quick people will change up on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
For better or for worse, people will change up on you like that, because it went from everyone heckling me to me fighting Storm Rider later that day, and they were going, "Get him, Shinigami! Line up that head kick!" And And yeah, so that whole thing was crazy. And like I'd been waiting all day too, and watching all these dudes that were like huge, but they all signed up for boxing. So but some of those guys looked like straight. They probably would have killed me. Just they had that aura, like you can't go in doubting yourself or anything, but you just look at some guys, it's like I'll fight them if I have to, but I don't think I'm getting out of that one unscathed.
Yeah.
And then I ended up fighting Detail and Storm Rider.
Exactly. So the plan is, were you gonna fight Storm Rider anyways, even depending? So it was all because you won against Detail.
So what happened was Storm Rider got waved off really early when he fought WA. And he felt like it was stopped too early because he was fine. But that's the thing. He's a damage sponge. He'll sit there and take it, even if he's in a bad position and he's not defending himself. He's like, I'm all right. I'm good. That's one of the biggest controversies about that one was, I'm good. And there's people in the comment section, he's saying he's good, but you're still hitting him. No, he was telling the ref that he was still good to go. He wanted to keep fighting. So he wanted to fight again. I still got more to show. I was BS stoppage, So he asked if I'd fight him because I won pretty quick, and so they let me fight because I took 0 damage.
Yeah.
0 damage.
Yeah.
So I fought again, and then I TKO'd him at the end of the first round. And that one I was messing around a little more because I wanted to show more stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah. So then once you debuted on Streetbeefs, and it went viral, and then you had other interviews too, right? And then how quick was it that you were like, okay, I'm going to do another Streetbeefs, I'm going to keep going with it? Was it like an immediate decision?
So what happened was Scarface and Tiny Tank. Scarface, obviously the founder of the whole org, and Tiny Tank, the one of the heads of the West Coast branch, messaged me and were like, so you won 2 fights in one day. Scarface was like, you should already be the champion for your weight class. And then Tank was like, well, you have a choice. Like, you can either fight for it, your next fight, or we can just give you the title and it'll be a title defense. So I was like, you know what? I mean, I did do something a lot of people don't do. I'll just give me the title and I'll defend it.
Wow.
Just jump straight into defenses. So, I was like, I got some plans the next month, but in a couple months I'll come back. So I think I came back for Streetbeefs West Coast 3 was when I came back to fight again, and I fought Streetbender. And that one, I made some mistakes going into that. You get used to doing karate tournaments and driving to Vegas because that one was out there. I've done tournaments in Vegas. You drive out there, spend the night at the hotel, compete at the same hotel I'm sleeping in. This was a little different. And then there was some other stuff that happened. Like my stepdaughter wanted to go visit her aunt who moved out there, and her aunt lied about how close it was to the Stratosphere.
Oof.
So I had to drive out there. And then we get to the Stratosphere, we check in, and then I thought it was like a 5-minute drive to drop her off at her aunt's, and it was 20 minutes each way.
Oh.
So, I got all this fatigue from driving. I felt like completely off when I went in there. Like my legs felt like concrete. So it turned into a dogfight pretty quick. And then there was like a confusion about like how many rounds we were supposed to do. So we ended it at 3 instead of 5, and it was a draw. So that's why we rematched again. I mean, yeah, that was heck of a fight. And then the rematch was rough too, but I beat him with a submission.
So good lesson. And this is something that's been happening since the Pride days, is that you got to try to be well rested, man. That's fatigue, right? Lack of sleep, tiredness will really get to you.
Yeah.
The common thing, a lot of times the Japanese fighters, when they would come over to the West to fight, they'd be dealing with that crazy, horrible jet lag. And then it's like, well, they didn't do too well. It's like, yeah, because they couldn't sleep. So
that was when I actually ended up getting an amateur title fight because of Streetbeefs.
Wow.
There's a organization in Florida called Rise of a Warrior in Fort Pierce, and that's all they do is watch fights over there. It was a sold out house.
Wow.
And I was fighting the hometown hero, and the jet lag thing is real. Like my body clock, I thought if I got there a couple of days early I'd adjust, but I was not adjusted. Which didn't affect my performance as much, but when I was waiting, when I was waiting, because we were the title fight. Like I because Street Beefs, if you're a title fight, you usually go earlier. You're not it's not like a regular event where you're the main event, and because those videos get uploaded later, no one really gets to watch them live unless they do a live stream. And even then, it's not like they don't do it that way. So I'm sitting there waiting literally all day.
Wow.
Literally all day. I had to get there at 3:00 to do the last medical check, and my fight didn't happen until like 10 p.m.
Ooh.
And usually I like sleep at like 3:00 before training. I got to take a little pre-training nap, or at the time it was in between training sessions nap. I'd train in the morning, take a nap at like 2, 3:00 till like 5, get up, get ready, and go back to the gym. So, I'm sitting there, and I actually tried to take a nap in the waiting area. And yeah, that was wild. Yeah.
This match that you're talking about, is that online?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it.
Yeah. Shinigami versus Two-Ton Tony.
Okay, cool.
Or Anthony Ciampa. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I should have taken my Streetbeefs belt. I didn't even think about it, because when they were in the announcer was asking for how I wanted to be introduced and everything. He's like, "And do you have that?" I was like, "No, but I should have brought it." Because I could have walked in there and had it.
Yeah.
That was interesting. He thought he was going to put me away quick and make a statement about, yeah, he's cool in the backyard, but this is the real deal. And even though I didn't win the fight, at the end of it, he was like, "I didn't expect the durability. He's tough. He's the real thing." That was me and him are buddies online now. Like, we wish each other Merry Christmas, Happy Birthday, all that stuff, and keep up with each other's stuff. And if I ever get the ability to travel to Texas, he said I can come in as a guest coach at the gym he works at.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's another reason why the fight community in general, the martial arts, it does bring people together in a different way. There's something to be said about, sometimes you have these matches, these fights with people, and then sometimes it breeds a friendship. It really does.
Was it Mike Tyson who said, "Not everybody who fights you is your enemy, and not everybody who helps you is your friend"?
Yeah. Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. He got pulled into the Streetbeefs community because they have heart in the fight, and some of the other fighters run podcasts and stuff on there, and so they always try to do some press conference stuff for just to kind of prep some of the guys who want to go pro and everything, and just build hype for stuff. So they pulled him in and did a little digital face off and stuff. So now he's in the groups and everything, and so he's part of the community too. It's like, that's the thing. Streetbeefs is so unique. You go in and you do all these fights, but for the most part, it really is a totally different vibe than any other fight org.
Yeah.
Most of the guys I met at Rise of a Warrior, I don't talk to. Just the promoter, occasionally I'll talk to him, and I'll talk to Two-Ton Tony, and everybody else from there pretty much that I met that night, never heard from him again, never really interacted with him again. So meanwhile, Streetbeefs, I'm always just talking to guys. I've got like a bunch of group chats from all the events, that have happened, because they always have a fighter chat for everyone at each event.
Yeah.
I've got like 5 of them, and I'm in, and sometimes they go kind of inactive. Like, I got this one of the fighters, Escalade, insists that steak has to be cooked well done, because it's gross if you cook it with any kind of pink or any kind of blood coming out of it. So I always razz them in there. I'll go 3 months and I'll see a meme about, if you overcook your steak, you're a bad person, kind of type thing, or steak should be like this. So then I'll just send it to that group and tag them, and then it starts a whole thing about which of us knows how to make a steak right. Of course, everybody knows medium rare, right?
Yeah, medium rare, definitely. I mean, in general, have your burgers medium rare. Sometimes I like that. Just not even do medium, just say rare. Just if they can, make it rare.
Oh yeah, I actually got a free burger one of the places I worked once, a couple of times actually, because the last restaurant I worked at, they'd order medium rare and I'd cook it perfectly medium rare, and they complained because there was blood. It's like, Lancaster is one of the most unrefined areas of all time. Like, there was not a lot out there. Like, we were excited when we got Applebee's and Chili's, and then the problem is everyone goes to Applebee's and Chili's, they'll order a burger medium rare, and because it sits under that heat lamp, it keeps cooking.
Yeah.
And cooking, and they think medium rare is medium well.
Yeah.
So they'll order medium rare where someone knows what they're doing, get blood in it, send it back, and leave. Like,
yeah, be like,
wow. So I was like, yeah, he didn't even take a bite of it. He just saw some blood dripping out of it. Well, it's not even blood either. That's the whole thing. People don't understand. It's not even blood. It's myoglobin. All the blood actually gets drained out during the butchering process.
Exactly.
That's the flavor. The flavor.
So another lesson, this is something that I'm paying attention to too. It's just like, really watch your food pathway. Like, I learned to make chicken soup from scratch. Like, I buy the whole chicken now and I make the chicken soup. I'm like, that's my 2024. Besides learning to move my ears, which I was telling Shinigami, like by 2024, I'm going to get the food pathway. Correct, because you got to know what you put into your body, man. You go to a restaurant, you go somewhere, you don't know how they're cooking it, right? It's good to learn to cook, man. That's a good lesson.
For sure.
And culinary chef right here. Do you still take advantage of that?
I mean, sometimes I don't really work in the industry. I got out because it doesn't pay enough. I actually make more where I work now, doing way less physical labor than I ever made. I came in making like $3 more an hour than I did working as a cook anywhere.
Wow. But
So-
like you carry some of those skills with you.
Oh yeah,
and so,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, you can just ask. I mean, what's one of the reasons Rachel loves me, right? Anniversary rolls around and she's getting a 3-course dinner. And
Oh,
I
wow.
go to the store and I buy all the stuff, and I'll make it. Or sometimes a 4-course. I'll make an appetizer, make steaks, and twice baked potatoes, and all from scratch.
Wow. My friend who's been on this channel before, he used to be a vegan chef. So of course, it's a horrible experience, but he carried some of those skills. So when he makes food for his girlfriend, it's like it looks beautiful. It's like the same thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It doesn't make you money, but it will get you the ladies.
Yeah,
It will
exactly.
get you. See, the whole thing is, the way to a man's heart is through his no. The way into a woman's panties is through her stomach, especially if you make it look pretty.
That's the key. It's the aesthetics, man. That's why if you compare Lowe's and Home Depot, right? Home Depot's for the men. That's why it's got the tall ceilings. It looks like a guy vibe. You go to Lowe's, it's got the girl vibe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, right. Because the girls go shopping, they look around.
Yeah.
Guys go shopping. We know what we're in there for.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to spend all day in Home Depot.
Yeah.
I want my my drill and I'm gone.
Yeah, exactly. It's again sort of like Pinterest versus any app or online website that's more guy focused. Like I think Facebook has more guys. You look at the design of Facebook versus Pinterest, right? It's a perfect example.
Simple versus having to have all the blingy, shiny, flare type stuff on Pinterest.
Yeah, exactly. So what would be your plan next? Because obviously there's people who want to learn from you, but then there's also people who want to see you fight. Do you find that a hard balance, or
I think it depends on the situation.
Uh-huh.
Potentially I might have to stop teaching for a little bit and focus more on the fight camp I'm gonna have to do. I'm trying to make my pro debut this spring or this summer for real, for sure. I'm already talking to a promoter. I got another offer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they were looking for someone for a short notice fight. I just couldn't get the medicals done in time for that. But I got a little financial situation to deal with before I got to get those ducks in order and before I get commit to a fight card, because I still have to put it in camp.
Yeah,
especially for that. So the plan is, if I can get one or two of the jobs I'm applying for to improve my income and still have the schedule I would need to train, do a full fight camp. Like I said, I'll probably be debuting at the end of the spring or the summer for sure. I ain't getting any younger. I need to get that going. I'm not even expecting a long pro career. It's just one of those things, you set a goal, you got to try to hit it. And even if I only do like 3 or 4 pro fights, that's still farther than any, most people who say they want to go, like there's steps people don't understand. Even Streetbeefs, a lot of people look at it, oh, it's backyard. There's a skill, a real skill set among the fighters, especially in the West Coast.
Yeah.
The West Coast is just the mecca for martial arts schools, and it doesn't matter what style you start in. Like, a lot of the karate tournaments I've been to are in like Orange County, Huntington Beach. You drive down any main street there, and every strip mall, all caddy corner, there's at least 3 martial arts schools. There's a jiu-jitsu school, an MMA gym, a taekwondo school, and then across the street, same thing, karate, blah blah blah, aikido, which we all know how useless that. But the fact is, there's just so many that it's like an all-you-can-eat buffet of options for martial arts schools, especially in certain areas where it's just all you could go do taekwondo and then an hour later walk right next door and do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Exactly.
Or American Kenpo too, same thing. It's just ripe with that. So a lot of the guys I fought in Streetbeefs have at least one amateur fight on their record. Wow. So that's why I kind of considered Streetbeefs West Coast my amateur run, because there's guys who've done amateur fights, and a lot of the guys who are comeback fighters put in real camps. Like we all put in real camps. And that's you can tell the skill difference too, but it's literally like doing amateur fights. I mean,
Wow.
there's a ladder just like in sanctioned fights. It's the only difference is the sanction ain't involved and it doesn't really go on a record.
Yeah.
And amateur fights don't matter once you go pro anyway. Even the promoter I talked to, he's like, "Well, you're 0-1 in amateur." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I've got X amount of fights in Streetbeefs, and I can give you all the names of the guys I've fought that have an amateur record and beat all of them." So, he was like, "All right, well, da da da." So that's where that's going. So Shinny probably coming to LFA in Minnesota this year. There's also a potential to earn a contract with Lights Out.
Okay.
Yeah, Streetbeefs has a lot of eyes on it, and they link with a lot of actual orgs to be kind of a scouting pool for talent.
That's amazing.
I know a couple of years ago, I don't know if it's still a thing. I think it is, but they were actually doing Raps only matches in the OG yard as a way to get people into bare knuckle. Like BKFC was actually recruiting directly from Streetbeefs for a while.
Wow.
So
would you do a BKFC type tournament?
No, not boxing, but if it was like Masvidal's like bare knuckle MMA, I'd do it.
I see.
I'd definitely do it.
Yeah. Or sort of BKMFC did that special Senchai versus
that was crazy.
So maybe something like that Shinigami would do.
Yeah, that'd
so
be wild.
This is actually a perfect time to expand. So tell me about a fight camp that, let's say, someone does at Streetbeefs. Like, what was a memorable fight camp you did? Tell me about the training regimen.
So I think the three biggest ones were the Nasty Native fight, the Duva fight. Those guys knocked me out. Those guys are beasts. They had just a really nasty left hand, both of them. And 2-ton Tony, and that entailed literally I was training full time for those. I'd get up in the morning and I would go to jiu-jitsu class, and then I would go to Planet Fitness and do some weights, and then I'd go eat lunch and intermittent fasting. So I had a little 4-hour eating window to get and make weight. And then at night I would do boxing class.
Wow.
And that was like 2.5 hours of that. And I would end that with a run. And so Monday through Thursday I would do that. And then Friday and Saturday it was jiu-jitsu all day.
Wow.
Plus, running and all that, jump rope. It's a
so
lot of
just
sparring.
One day off, Sunday off.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I see. Okay. So now you guys know what goes into it, right? Like you said, some people, they think of Streetbeefs, they think a lot of people just sort of like, oh, I just want to fight. That's not how it works anymore. Streetbeefs has acquired such a reputation and a pool of fighter base that now the majority of people who go on Streetbeefs, I think, are like what Shinigami said, like they're serious about it. Like they're training a lot.
Especially on the scrapyard, and especially West Coast.
Yeah.
Those two branches, they're both in areas where there's a lot of people who train at actual gyms, and the West Coast has groups. We have actual fight teams out here that get together and train just for Streetbeefs. There's Duva's team 50-50. You got the Stockton Strikers, or whatever they're called, and then you got the I think that was it. And you got the Sin City Strikers and the Guerrillians and all kinds of little teams. Shinigami Con, granted, we all live so far apart, it's hard for us to get together. We haven't been together. Had a team workout in over a year because nobody's schedules line up for that anymore. I'm gonna try to get it back together one of these days, but you still get some of the guys who just want to show up and fight in the East Coast, the OG yard, and like Dirty South. I think that's because one, there's just a big draw to go to the OG yard, and like Dirty South too is kind of like it's easier than traveling for those little states near East Texas. It's a lot easier than traveling everywhere else.
Yeah,
it gets expensive to travel, and I just going to Vegas isn't even that bad, and that's still expensive. So then you get these guys like Nasty Native who's coming from Arkansas to fight in the West Coast branch, just because that's a lot of people's favorite branch.
Yeah.
Obviously there's only one Streetbeefs, I gotta denote that, but we seem to be a fan favorite, right up there about with the OG yard. Is like the channel's growing big, the Instagram's growing big, like the OGR just started focusing on their Instagram more. And shout out to Lord Bestaban because he got them into 1 million views in like a month.
Yeah,
or a million followers in a month.
So, a question since we're on the topic of the Street Beefs. So, the different matches you fought in sort of different types of rings, right? You had one where it's kind of haystacks. Actually, you had 2 matches where it's kind of haystacks. You had the West Coast one, they have sort of like the fence type structure. There's also the wood stuff. Have you done the stuff where like the
scrap yard and the OG yard have the wood?
Yeah. So do you have to prepare for the terrain, so to speak?
I don't know about preparing for the terrain, but there's definitely a difference in the terrain between the locations and the branches. Just like that first one was in San Bernardino, and yeah, there were hay bales, but they were actually stacked high enough, and the ring was a little smaller, but the dirt wasn't like sand. It was just like, I don't know, it's like that San Bernardino dirt. I really don't know how else to describe it. It's not
sort
sand.
of desert kind of,
it's more like soil than sand.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was a little different. And then going to like the sandbox, that was sand like this thick, and that changes your footwork because it slows you down. The OG yard was probably my favorite floor. The cage was big. The floor didn't take away from my footwork or slow me down or anything. We got the smoke ranch and the hot box, where the hot box was crazy with the wood. Especially the last time, because some people actually broke the door off of it. It's made out of wood pallets, but I guess all the weather and stuff kind of wore it out faster than Wedo had anticipated.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a boxing match of all things, but one of the guys just was going a little too wild and went for a double leg and through I walked out of the little back shed gym just in time to see was it Jimmy Fit and someone else coming crashing through that thing. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
And then like Scrapyard has the artificial grass.
That's right. Wow. Do you have a favorite kind of, I guess you'll call it ring or cage, or it's like all of them you like?
I think my 2 favorite are the Smoke Ranch and the OG Yard.
Okay.
I didn't get to fight in the one in Ojai, but the CSAC kind of kicked us out of California. Because California's greedy and CSAC wanted its cut by trying to tell us we had to make him sanctioned events or we couldn't do them. So.
Wow. Politics. Well, what's cool is this is something I can connect you with after this talk, but there's a kickboxing league in LA that I'm sure if you ever want to do something with them, they could do something with you. So I'll connect you with them if you want. And then
maybe.
As
far as that kind of stuff, I try to stick to Street Beefs because, they've done a lot for me and I try to stay loyal to them. If I'm doing underground stuff, I'm going to just stick with them.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I'm doing a combat karate match this month and in the West Coast Yard, my 3rd one.
Yep. Ooh, okay.
So, that's part of the reason me and Ryu Senin started it, just because it was a little different. He didn't want to do MMA anyway. But, it's a little, once you do a pro match, you can't fight in that style anymore in Street Beefs. So kind of like how you can't go back to the amateurs. If you do a pro fight, you're pro.
Yeah.
So I was like, Street Beefs is such a fun community to be around, and all the travel it takes to go out to one of those events, you might as well fight while you're there.
Yeah.
So it was like, I'm not into boxing. I'm not a Muay Thai guy. You start a combat karate division. And so, now we're trying to grow that out a little bit. So I'm going to be fighting in that.
So that's a very cool thing to look forward to for Street Beefs. Anything else you can tell us? Any other cool expansions or stuff for Street Beefs?
As far as I know, that's about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
There's potentially a UK branch coming because some hucksters over there stole the name, put a Z on the end, called it Street Beefs UK, and so there's a whole thing going on about that. And
it's pretty bad because I showed Scarface the screenshot. They didn't just copy the name; they sort of copied the slogan too. So
Yeah.
it's not glove up, shut up. They call it knuckle up and shut up. That's too close. Man.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're
very
they're
close.
trying too hard. In my non-legal opinion, they're trying too hard to make it look like they're kind of street beefs.
Yeah.
Even though they claim they aren't. It's like, dude, you're copying the slogan and the name. Now that's
And
if you just stumbled on the name, you have sort of a gray area, but you try to
even the font's kind of close.
Yeah,
You know, the only thing they're missing is the Cobra.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, in fact, it's actually pretty funny because if you really keep up with like Scarface and stuff, the post he's making about is like the Nike post. He made a post with the Nike logo and put a Z on it and then put UK. He's like, yeah, I just came up with a new shoe company. Satire, but because that's what they're trying to say. Oh yeah, we put we did spelled different and da da da. There's one letter difference, dude. Yeah. One letter difference, and your slogan is almost word for word. Like you're infringing real bad on trademark and copyright.
Yeah.
Like bad.
Yeah. And the thing is, the guy who runs the UK fake version, he actually came out with a video a few days ago. Did you see it? He challenged Scarface to a fight. He's like, you come to UK, we fight. If you beat me, I take all my videos down.
Oh God, Scarface would murder that. So when I went to fight Big Smile, I went to neutral corner when it was still in Winchester, and as was after the fight. But I went to do one of their training sessions on a Monday, and it was one of the most brutal things I've ever done. It was like 12 rounds of sparring.
Wow.
But then in between rounds of sparring, it was 60 seconds of some kind of conditioning. So you didn't even really get, and you got like a 10-second break between that and that. So it's like 3 minutes of sparring, 30 seconds, minute of conditioning, straight 60 seconds of whatever. And before I knew it, I'd been in there for 4 hours, 5 hours. I'm wondering why I'm so tired, because it only feels like I've been in there for an hour and a half because everything's going by so fast. But yeah, the guys from the OGR that actually train with Face and Face himself, those guys are no joke. Those guys are no joke.
Wow.
They train, and especially Scarface, like the guys at the top, because they don't have to have outside jobs. They make their money from running Street Beef. So they literally all day, they train. Wow. All day, like every day.
That's the life, man. That's the
life.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, Scarface's fitness journey, watching just the last couple of years of it, has been incredible. Like, that dude from the UK is asking for trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So keep you guys posted on that, because we all know it's, that guy from the UK is probably going to come out with an apology video or something eventually, hopefully. Yeah. So, okay. I guess this is a good stopping point. Now, how can people help Shinigami on his fight journey? I guess that's the final thing. Besides subscribing to his channel, which of course I'm gonna link, but like, what else can they do to help your fight journey?
I have merch on Teespring. Shinigami's Killer Merch is the name of the store. If you just search that up, it'll come up. I'll also give him the link to put in his description. Then I'm actually an affiliate with Sonable, so if you guys need gear, Sonable is a great option. And if you use code Force360, which I stuck with the name of my dojo so that my students, when they get jiu-jitsu gis for grappling days and other stuff, can get the discount and remember it because it's the name of our dojo. So Force360 at Sonable gets you 15% off. And then Kitaro, I'm sponsored by them. So anything you guys buy and use code Danny10 there, Kitaro.com, they custom belts where I got my Shinigami belts, where I got this cool belt, which right here, it's got the custom embroidery. This is my Kenpo Shotokan karate, and then there's the Force 360 martial arts, name of the dojo. High quality, handmade in the USA to order. I actually just got a new one for Street Beefs because the one I got, I didn't think I was gonna be in Street Beefs long enough to need a second stripe on it, so I didn't tell them to leave more room for more stripes. And that's the thing, you get free stripes for life. So whether it's a Kenpo belt, a regular karate belt, the jiu-jitsu belts, they'll sew the stripes onto that. It'll actually be sewn on like this, really nice, but it'll be white. So those are ways you can help, especially the Sonable and the merch store, because I get paid directly from those. So
I see. A question kind of popped up as we're talking about. Is there any style of martial art you still want to train?
Judo, like
judo, yeah.
Straight take a judo class for a while. I'd like to get belted in that. And then, I mean, there's still a little part of me that wants to learn some ninjutsu.
I mean, me too. I know what you mean.
Just, even if it is a little bushido-y. it still would be fun to just say, "Hey, I'm a ninja," and then because I know stuff that actually works, if someone tries to test me, I just kick their ass and they'll be like, "Oh my god,
he does. He knows jiu-jitsu." Yeah, I have a ninja costume. If you guys have followed Fight Commentary Breakdowns, I have a ninja costume, and I almost brought it here, but I just didn't have enough space in my luggage. But I was like, in the future, I'll dress up as a ninja, so I'll have a matching costume for him.
Especially when we're doing like the technique stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I think this is a good stopping point. I think we'll just get Shinigami back. We'll do more of these, and then another thing I would love to invite you. One of the things I want to do, I want to watch UFC, and potentially we can react to it together. So we're not going to show UFC, of course, for copyright purposes, but we'll sort of do on-screen live reactions, and Shinigami can kind of react with me. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, kind of like Jens Pulver does on the UFC Twitch.
Yeah, exactly.
The live commentary. That'd be sick.
Yeah, and that would make watching fights fun because I'm one of those guys. I don't necessarily just want to watch the fights because everyone's watching the fights. Right? I want to get something out of it. And so if you watch with a bunch of martial artists, you're going to learn some good lessons from watching. It's not just casual watching, right?
Yeah.
The channel is not a casual watch channel. So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was actually one of my biggest things too when I started watching UFC fights. Like I hadn't done jiu-jitsu yet. So the grappling part was kind of boring. Then you learn jiu-jitsu and you know what's going on. So it changes how you enjoy the fights. And then especially when you're at a sports bar and some guys like that jiu-jitsu stuff wouldn't work or, that jiu-jitsu stuff is boring. It's like, you're like, yeah, okay, guy, I'm sitting here understanding the technicality of what's going on here and you don't know nothing. So shush.
Yeah. I love the guys. Sometimes you go into a sports bar and there's guys, they're really in it just for the crowd purposes. So they don't know anything. They don't even understand the striking. They're sort of looking at you. And as you're kind of cheering, they'll start cheering too. He's like, "Oh, okay, that's my cue. I'll get hyped too."
The ultra casuals, yeah, those guys are something else.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, this was Fight Commentary Breakdowns. I think this was a great little first interview with Shinigami, guys. Shinigami.
That was great.
Cool.